I have to apologize. We videotaped last time. Can you say videotaped anymore? Is it
Recorded.
Visually recorded? Audio recording, visual recording? Is that what it is? No. Videotape doesn't exist anymore. So what's video? Anyway, we got 2 minutes out of the 2 hours, so I'm not quite sure what happened. That's the first time that's ever happened. I want to make sure that does not happen again. And so anyway, you all signed in? Was there anyone that signed in whose name was not on there? What? So we're gonna talk about adding you. Okay. I think we're okay. We are full. Okay, we could go. All right, welcome. We are going to be talking tonight about exploiting proximity. And now that you've rearranged your rooms and made them so that you can walk around, we're going to talk about exploiting that. But before we get in, we're going to let Jen help review. And we have some questions that you left for us that we want to answer. Some will be answered in future sessions, and some are going to be answered tonight. Please go ahead and bend forward, please.
So, my cartoons. Says your classroom management techniques work in practice, but not in theory, and that worries me. I think that's the story of our lives sometimes. It always looks really great on paper. It looked great when we were going to our credential class. Oh, that'll be so easy. And then you get in there with the actual students and you find out that, they don't always do what they're supposed to do. Nor do we, actually, but, wrong way. So I put a couple of things that I knew needed to be addressed. We didn't ignore any, believe me. We read every single one of these. But exit strategies, that was something somebody had requested. I can give you a couple examples that I have found works great with teachers too. Is whatever your final assignment is, give them something. Whether it's even a quick paragraph summarizing what they did that day, kind of a learning log type deal. But have them hand it to you as they're walking out the door. If they don't have it done, they don't go. For the kid that is dying to go to break, dying to go to lunch, dying to go see their girlfriend, boyfriend, right? All of a sudden that becomes a very pressing issue. And because it's tangible, they can't lie to you. And so for them, I think that is the key. Just anything you can come up with. It can be something as simple as put down one idea you got today and have them write one word. The whole point is there's something that you're getting. And even if you just give them credit for doing it and not really, you don't have to sit down and grade it, or you don't even have to give them credit. They don't know, right? So, I know that sounds terrible, but the reality is we don't have time to grade everything. So, exit strategies, I would have an exit, we call them exit tickets. I use that with high schoolers at work, even though tickets might sound kind of cheesy. Teach two strategies. We're going to go over that in depth, but basically, whatever you want done in your classroom needs to be taught. This was the one thing that never occurred to me. And I used the example of, I did AVID, so we did a lot of Socratic seminars. And I'd say, okay, get in circles. And they would drag their chairs and it would go, because I didn't have carpet. And it was like nails on a chalkboard to me. And then I would say, stop. And then they'd stop. But they wouldn't move their desks. And of course, it became a big process. Had I taught them how to do it at the beginning, I wouldn't have had that headache. And believe me, it was a headache, because we did it probably at least twice a week. Difficult students. The whole point of what we're going over with you is to help you with those difficult students. We are setting the groundwork first. We're not getting to that yet. And I know you're like, great, so what do I do? Just let them bounce off the walls? No. Today you're going to learn a lot about proximity, and that, I will guarantee you, will eliminate probably 75% of your discipline problems. Okay? You're always going to have the kid that refuses, that likes to play ping pong with you, and that kind of stuff. But we're going to get into more of the nuts and bolts today of how to handle the kids that are the difficult ones. And the quiet ones are a piece of cake. You just feel like you ignore them. Free seating. Somebody said, a colleague, let them have free seating. The kids could do free seating. I used to be that teacher too. Because I thought, you know what, I'll be nice. You guys sit where you want. Then if you blow it, I'll take it away. Well, the reality is, I was a nagger. And I would nag until I had a headache. And then I'd explode, and then I'd say, move, and by that time, I'm furious. And they may not even know I'm furious because I'm not yelling, but inside, I mean, I can feel the pulse in my head, you know. So don't. Eliminate it from the beginning, show them you're in control, and you set up the way you want. I would even say don't do alphabetical order. I mean, in the beginning you kind of have to because you don't necessarily know all your kids, but as soon as you start to know those kids, you go, oh no. And one of the things that I learned in Avid was such a great idea, to make it fun sometimes. You set the seating chart. That's you. It's your domain. Again, do it your way. You put kids where you need them to be. But if you want to put them in groups and kind of make it a little more fun, take some, you know, for all of you that gamble and you get those free blackjack cards, well, they don't really give them to you for free anymore, but, and you can cut them in half, and then you have them pair up. As they're walking in, you just hand them a card. They go, what's this for? What's this for? And you're like, just hold on to it. Don't worry about it. Just hold on to it. Well, that's a set right there. You got them thinking, what is she going to do to us? What is he going to do to us? Okay, then you go, okay, I want you to find your other half. Well, that allows them to get up and move around a little bit. You give them, I don't know, 30 seconds, if you can tolerate that long. They find their partners, they sit down, boom, you've got your partners. You don't have to sit there and go, I want you with her, and you with her, because obviously they're already sitting with their friends. And you kind of want to mix that up and take them out of their comfort zone. Bless you. Just some ideas. I've had people do construction paper and colors, dice, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. You can get creative and fun, and it breaks up the monotony for you and for them. Somebody asked if we would be willing to observe every class. Ideally, yeah. Bless you. I'll do most of those because Steve is slammed. I would love to do that, and if you're that person that wants me there all day, let me know, and I'll just plan ahead of time to spend all day with you. Otherwise, I usually go to a school for the day and bounce. But I am trying to not be like an administrator who just sees 5 seconds of your meeting, of your class, and then says, well, I didn't see this and I didn't see that. Well, yeah, you weren't there the whole time. I know most of you know what I'm talking about. So I do try to stay the whole period, and I won't intervene. I usually try to sit in the back. Sometimes the kids will try to talk to me, which is fun for me because I miss it. But we'll get through, and at the end I'll say, do you want to talk now or you want to talk later, whatever. And none of mine is going to be, I saw you did this wrong and this wrong and this wrong. It's always going to be, this is the positive stuff I saw, this is awesome, and maybe a suggestion is. Because I'm on your side, and nothing I see goes back to anybody in the administrative realm. I mean, I'm not trying to act like they're pariahs, but, you know, I don't want them to hear what I see. This was a good one, and when I read it, I kind of went, ooh, didn't think of that. How do you, at this point in the year, go back and implement the changes? That's a great question. But again, I'm going to say this. Your classroom is your domain. If you decide to change all the rules tomorrow, that's your prerogative. The best way to execute that is to teach it. If you say, you know what? Let's say you're a free sitter. You let everybody sit where they want. And tomorrow they walk in and you go, guess what? We got a seating chart. And I would BS them. I would say, you know what? It's because I love you guys and I want you to have the best experience possible and me not to kill you. So I'm going to give you seats. And then you just break it up. You say, this is your seat. And do not make me remind you about this seating chart. Pay attention to who you're sitting next to. Meet them, shake their hands, say hello, whatever. This is where you're sitting until further notice. Is it a big change for them? Probably, because you were loosey-goosey before, and now you're going, you're doing it my way. But do it. And as far as the other stuff, if you teach it, it's not like, you're not expecting to go back in time. So if you decide you want to turn papers in a different way, like I had an orange box, which was really stupid because they all stacked their papers up. But I had an orange box, and I was an English teacher. And I'd say, I want everything turned into the orange box. What I was not very intelligent about was telling them, the minute you walk into class, set your stuff up, and then turn in last night's homework. I never did that. I never had them walk through it. I just said, I want everything turned into the orange box. I thought, you're high school, you can handle it, right? You know, I mean, come on. Yeah, no, they can't. Okay, they can't. You'll have that one kid, we call it in Time to Teach, the always kid. The always kid that comes in with the perfectly typed homework assignment and meets you at the door and says, Miss Taylor, where do you want this? And I say, the orange box, remember, honey? Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, Miss Taylor. I sit down. Yeah, I don't have a lot of those kids. Never did. Okay? But there's always one. There's always one. And then I almost got irritated because they were so detailed. I'm like, good God, leave me alone. Go turn it in there. You know where you're supposed to go. But whatever you decide to change or implement, just teach it. Do a teach to, or introduce it at this point. Since you don't really know how to do a teach to, just introduce it. This is how it's going to be done. There's no questions. And somebody asked about SDC students. All of these strategies you're going to be getting can be used with any kids. From GATE to EL to SDC to SED. With SED it would obviously be a lot more repeating and things like that. But the strategies are the same, because what we ask you to do is show respect to these kids, but you still give them parameters, and if they step outside of it, they have repercussions. It's not punishment. It's not like we're going to beat them. But if I tell you to sit here and you rock your chair, and I've told you before, don't rock your chair, I want you to sit like this with both feet on the ground, eyes on me, and then they don't do it, they know. They know. Even my 2-year-olds, when I taught daycare, they knew what their parameters were. And every now and then you'd have that kid that would want to step over it. Step over the line. That was me. You tell me to be quiet, I'm going to have one more thing to say. Okay? So you don't want to quash that kid. That kid needs to have, that kid is usually going to be a leader, right? Even though they're a pain in the butt to you. But you don't want to kill them. You don't want to squash them. But you want them to respect your rules. And kids like to respect that, even the worst behaved children. So if you've got a child, regardless of their abilities, if you give those parameters and you are clear and consistent, okay, you don't have to make exceptions, you don't have to do all of that. You just be fair, consistent, and thorough. And those kids, whether they're SDC, EL, SED, RSP, whatever, they will respect that. But it's only if you enforce and you're consistent. I know it sounds like in the beginning, yeah, it's heavy loaded on the front end. The first time you teach it, you're going to have to repeat it. I joke that it's always 3 times, without fail. I'll say, okay, page 219. Okay, page 219. Miss Taylor, what page? 219. And then I go, watch, I'm going to have somebody else do it. And sure enough, somebody in the back will go, Miss Taylor, what page did you say? And I'm like, I knew. So instead, I should have just said, page 219, everybody looking? 219. And next time somebody says, Miss Taylor, what page? Instead of getting mad, I always got mad. I have a very hot temper, so I'm probably a good example of how to lose your cool. And let me make sure I didn't miss anything else. How to teach procedures to mastery. First of all, you demand mastery, because they're going to play you like a fiddle if you don't. Well, Miss Taylor, I don't know how to do this. Well, we went over it yesterday, but I didn't pay attention. Ask your partner. Don't engage. Don't buy the bait. My kids loved, you can probably figure this out real quick. My kids would get me going on stories. And then they'd sit back and grin, and I knew what they were doing, and I still went along with it. But anyway. Classroom management for lack of motivation. Students who are not motivated. That would be the majority of our students. They don't want to be in a classroom. They don't see any applicability to history. Why do I need to know history? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because when you're driving and your gas is $4 a gallon, it has something to do with what's going on. They don't see that. They don't get it. They don't get why we have to read The Great Gatsby. This dude's dead. Why do I care? Yeah, you're right. He is. And his story's pretty cool. They don't care. They don't care. So how do you motivate them? It all comes down to your relationship with them. Truthfully. Most kids aren't going to walk into a classroom nowadays and go, I love to learn. Yay, I get to go to school for free. They don't see it that way. And you know, a lot of older people say, you should be thankful for your education. Yeah, right. Like, what kid is going to say, I love coming to school every day? Maybe in kindergarten, when they're singing and having snacks and nap time, I would love that too. But it's not, you know, when you get to the high school age, all they care about is the social hour. That's it. They live for their break, lunch, and after school. That's it. Now, that's not to say they don't love your class. They might love your class. They might love the subject, but none of them want to be there. I mean, my kid is a pretty good student, but I'll tell you what, we call her the mayor, because that is all she cares about, is walking around campus. We'll drive in and she'll go, that's Bobby and that's John. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Are you friends with them? No, I'm just telling you who they were. I don't care. If it's somebody you're friends with, I want to know. But I don't need to know. We don't need to take roll. That's not important to me. So just realize that most of those kids do not want to be at school, but they will do anything for people that care about them. Truthfully. You'll find they're hanging out in your room at lunch. You'll find that you can't go to the bathroom because they're always hanging out. You'll find, you know, I mean, I had kids that I would have never hung out with in school, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And they had a whole table going with a full competition going on. And I'm like, do you guys really play this stuff, like, all the time? They're like, Miss Taylor, we go to competitions in Vegas, Reno, $10,000. I'm like, what? You make money in this? But anyway, different kids. But you know, I didn't pick them. That's not how it works. Every kid will connect with somebody. Every kid. And that connection is what makes those kids come to school. And that's what gets those kids going. And that's what makes those kids do well. They don't want to disappoint you. If you care about them, they do not want to disappoint you. And it doesn't take much. And we'll talk about how easy that is to engage. Did you see anything I needed to talk about?
What are the best ways to improve student behavior? Scents, colors, class setup?
All of the above? Well, I guess Madera has a rule now you can't have scents, so that blows my whole smell thing out. But colors, I will say classroom organization, the way you have them seated, who you have them seated with, and your control over that is number one, huge. Then you put in the other things, the proximity, the silent cues. Like, I was pretty dramatic, obviously, and if I saw a kid doing something, if these two were talking and they didn't think I was watching, I would kind of just go. If they kept going, I'd like, are you guys done? Are we interrupting? Now, we've talked about sarcasm. That's not always good. But obviously, I'm very sarcastic. And at that point, they'd be like, if they were really close to me and they'd had me for 4 years, they would say, oh, Miss Taylor, we were talking about. I'm like, I really didn't want to know that, but whatever. But if they weren't, I'd embarrass them and they'd stop. Because they don't think anybody notices that they're talking. And so that was kind of some of the things. But if you set it up your way, you're showing control. And if it's where you can pace, then you just use your proximity as much as possible. And we're going to talk about the different body language and stuff that you can use with that. If it's kids you know well, like with Abbott, I had these kids for 4 years. I could tell if they were having a bad day, or they'd tell me. Or you know, I could tell things weren't right. And so sometimes when the kids, I'd have them doing a prompt or something, and I'd come over and say, you okay? And the kid's not going to tell you their life story right there. They're not. But the fact is, I walked over and initiated eye contact and said, hey, you know, I care. And when you have proximity and your room is set up where you can reach all the kids, that's where you can bridge a lot of gaps right there. Did you have another one?
In your table groups, I want you to talk about what kind of words or cues do you use to get students' attention? So you can get some ideas from each other real quick. You have about 2 minutes.
Shut up's probably not a good one.
Yeah, they don't do that.
Last year I did fine graph and MCMM or vice versa.
Last year I did
30 seconds.
the second period. Yeah, I'm not saying that they take it.
In Boy Scouts, we did this.
Yeah, if you do that high school, you know what you're gonna do?
It's a Scout sign.
Yeah, well.
I started the 100 Games this morning.
All right, nice. There's all kinds of ways to do that. The quicker the better. So it has to be heard, it has to be known, and it has to be something you do consistently every time. Some of these questions kind of can be summed up in some bigger words. I was thinking that the more organized your class is and clean, the less stress you're producing in your classroom, the better your behavior. There was a study done, and they stopped doing it after a while because of political correctness, but when you went to grad night, do you remember you had to wear a dress or a tie? There was a reason for that. You behaved better.
Yep.
And so the same thing kind of goes on in your classroom. If it's neat and orderly and together and everything's piled up nicely, like mine is never, it creates a little more order in your classroom.
Can I add to that also? Is as somebody who likes to shoot from the hip, if I was organized and planned myself, it seemed that everything went better. Because there were days when I was doing my lesson plan on the drive to school, and then I'm running around trying to get everything rounded up. And even though the lesson may have still been effective, it wasn't organized, or I didn't feel good about it, and they read that. They read that energy.
I like what they said about how do I keep my targeted students from shouting all the time. All right. Next time we meet on the 23rd, we're gonna launch into procedures and how to teach them. And I remember I told you last time, every behavior you expect in class has to be what? Taught. Okay. And so one of the things you can do is you can teach your students, hey, we don't shout in our class when you have an answer. This is how you do it. And when a student violates that procedure, then you stop them and say, I'm sorry, in my classroom we do not shout. Would you try that again, please? And you make them repeat it without shouting every time if they're answering your question. If they're talking in a group and they're shouting, then you have to make the whole class be quiet and then say, 4 students were talking on an outside voice and we need to do it inside. Let's try it again. And then you're going to use what I'm going to teach you tonight, proximity. If they're still shouting in that particular group, you walk over and you'll be amazed that they'll be quiet.
Well, and when you use the inside-outside voice with older high school kids, they're probably going to roll their eyes at you. So I would say your professional voice and start getting that mindset in with them. Your professional voice. You don't go up to your grandmother and start screaming at her and using the F word, right? I mean, if you do, we're in trouble. So how would you speak to somebody you were interviewing with? How would you speak to your grandmother? How would you? And then they get it.
And then the last one was behavior strategies for SDC. And the real answer is don't miss. We've got a lot of great stuff coming, and we can't unpack it all in 2 hours. And so pay attention and ask. The other second thing I think is, as you're thinking about what we're teaching you, ask questions as it relates to your specific situation. So it's a great question, but it's a big answer, and that's why we have 20 hours together. All right, you just sit down.
Okay. So we're just going to review this real quick because we didn't get the video last time. The 4 main components of MCMM. Every time I see that, I think Man Crush Monday. But I know it's supposed to be Madera Classroom Management Method.
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah, or that too. Funny, I don't think about that because it's exercise. But educational environment or instructional environment, classroom expectations, lesson planning, and accountability and motivation. Those are the 4 main components of MCMM. For educational environment, I'm going to repeat this all the time. It's your domain. Focus on prevention, which is what you do with your seating chart. what you do with your proximity, your interior loop that you'll hear about today. Soothing colors, I think I mentioned last time I painted one whole wall blue because I read somewhere that was soothing. Made me have to go to the bathroom the whole time I taught, but it was still there. You know, blue like makes you think of water. Well, it did me, beach. 2 seats away, set limits, and you set the tone. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a classroom where somebody looked like a meek mouse up there. And let me tell you, kids read that. They read it, and it's like jackals. They're gonna. So that doesn't mean you have to walk in and puff it up and pump it up like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all that. But you need to be. You guys probably don't even know who that is. Never mind. Classroom expectations.
The Governor.
That was a few years ago, though. Body language, self-control, calm is straight. We're going to talk about that today. Be consistent, rules and procedures. We talked about, what's his name that has 155 rules? Really, he has 155 procedures. John Clark, yes. Mr. Clark. Ron Clark, Mr. Clark. Procedures. When the kids know what to expect, just think about the fact that these kids, a lot of them come from really unstable home lives. Not all of them, but enough of them that it can disrupt your class. They come from a situation where they don't know if mom and dad are, if they're even being raised by their mom and dad, what they're going to expect, who they're going to run into. There was only one person who came in. Keep in mind that you're their consistency. You are what they know as consistency. So a lot of these kids, I don't know how many of you are ever involved in the counselor side of things, but especially if you've been teaching a long time, I think you've learned that psychology is probably our second. I mean, we end up being a therapist more than we end up being anything else. And right before Christmas, right before spring break, right before summer break, not only is behavior the worst, but the suicide rate is up. These kids do not like to go home. Or even if they love home, it's unstable for them. You are consistent for them. That's why having rules and procedures is so important for you and for them. If they know what to expect, that's security for them. And that is something that a lot of them don't have outside of our schools. And you'll hear them. They may be the worst kid at school, but this is their safe place. They'll never tell you that, but you can tell by the way they act. Now, it's kind of frightening that the pressure's on us to do that. But on the other side of that, it's pretty easy to develop a relationship with a kid. I mean, really, sometimes all it is eye contact. Lesson planning. If you are good at planning your lessons, planning your time, breaking it up, keeping it exciting, and catering to the needs of your kids, you will have a classroom that runs like a beehive. Everybody has a purpose, everybody has a job, everything gets done. We spend a lot of time on this. This is kind of my favorite thing.
We have actually three sessions, 6 hours to go through that.
And it won't be all writing lesson plans, believe me. Recognize, remind, remove, timing, transitions, variety, learning styles, and teaching styles. How many of you have taken that? I'm sure probably when we had the credential class, what your teaching style was. Have you ever thought about all the different learning styles that you have sitting in front of you? Yeah. Very few of them do well with lecture. Very few. Even the kid that is a straight A, loves to sit, and really is that one kid that loves coming to school to learn, even that kid doesn't want to sit still for 45 minutes. Alternative assignments, we'll talk about this later, and short versus long-term memory. This is all really cool stuff that both of us have learned throughout the years, and I think you'll find it pretty fascinating, and it helps when you start thinking about how you want to deal with your classroom. And accountability and motivation. Caring is key. They call it unconditional positive regard. Basically, when you walk in the door, I'm not just going to say, hi, it's good to see you, do you have your homework? I'm going to say, hi, it's good to see you. Or good morning. Or, man, you were early today. That's pretty cool because you haven't been early much, but I am happy you're here today. Like, don't base it on things. Unconditional means you're not basing it on contingent. It's not contingent on something. But they need that recognition too. Hey, awesome job, you did your homework today. Or you did one question on your homework. Whatever. If that's more than what they've done before, get excited. Timing. Knowing how to break it up. You know the average attention span is a minute for every year. So when you think 15-year-old, there's no way. 15 minutes is not their attention span. I would gauge it at best about 10. So how do you break it up? Because out about 10 minutes, you're losing them. Deal with the unexpected, time management. Oh, dealing with the unexpected. I had a lady that I worked with, she was in my department, and I swear to you, she had her lessons to the minute to the second. And then, if they had a fire drill, oh good God, you would have thought the world ended. Because she couldn't function the rest of the day. And I'm like, oh girlfriend, you gotta get over that. You better wing it. You better learn to wing it, you know. You cut out here, you adjust here. Or, you know, there's a kid has a seizure in your class. And you have to deal with that. Now that would throw most people off for the rest of the day. You have to go on, your kids rely on you. I mean, you don't just ignore the kids, you deal with that. But after that, you've got to go. So dealing with the unexpected, that is the cool part of teaching, and that is the hard part of teaching. Time management, managing your time, incentives, bribery, we don't use that word, but if they have something they can work for, and it's meaningful and it still ties in with your class, okay, that's not like giving them candy and then sending them to the next teacher. You're giving them something that they can work for, that they have to earn, and it's applicable in your class. And we'll teach about the PATs that we talked about in the last screen a little bit. That kind of goes with that. Teach student responsibility, and then the infamous refocus. Today's objectives. You will learn that any classroom disruption will trigger a mild fight or flight in you. You're given this awesome lecture, and the vice principal comes to the door because he wants to see somebody. Not only did it mess your train of thought up, but you had this awesome lesson going, and now all the kids are like, ooh. Like, we're going to talk about how you adjust to that. Teachers will master staying calm and use social power to manage a classroom. Teachers will be cognizant of body language and how that affects students. I mean, the obvious, like I said, if you look like a meek mouse and you walk up here, they're going to eat you up. If you walk up and you're like, eye contact, demanding attention, engaging everybody in the conversation, well, in your lesson, you're not really conversing with them, but you're engaging them. All of those things, along with a bunch of other stuff that Steve's going to teach us, will help you control your classroom. And nonverbal prompts. That doesn't mean going by and smacking a kid, but it can mean I can just kind of stand here like this, and if she was doing something wrong, if she's not doing anything wrong, she's like, oh, what are you doing? But if she was doing something wrong, everybody knows. They're going, uh-oh, she saw me. Dr. Powell, the guy that used to be the Fresno County superintendent of schools, great man, phenomenal speaker. He was my superintendent at Central. We were at a big banquet one time, huge, and Dr. Powell knows me very well. And he made me sit up front. So I'm sitting up front, and he's talking, and I leaned to say something to my friend, and I looked up, and he's staring right at me. And I just was, I mean, like, talk about the cat that ate the canary. I was so embarrassed. Here Dr. Powell is with a room of 500 people, and he nailed me. He didn't have to say a word. He didn't have to say a word. The fact that he made eye contact with me about made me fall into the ground. So, because I respect him. If he was somebody I didn't respect, I wouldn't care. I think, is this you?
That's you.
So, focus on prevention. Once you get to the point where you have to react, okay, you've lost. You don't want to react. So 1 ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You know that thing. I don't know if some of your grandparents told you that. Class organization, you being organized, you being composed, and you strategically placing like a chess match where these kids go. That will help you 75%. Being calm and not losing your cool. You keep your composure, and the kid folds. Eliminate potential problems. If you see, like, she walks in today and she is in a bad mood. I saw it when she walked through the door. And I know that if she's left alone, she will stir my whole class up. I need to immediately be thinking, okay, I can either meet her at the door and go, hey, you all right, man? You look like something's wrong. Right then, you've disarmed them, and you're no longer the opponent. because you took them off to the side and said, hey, I care about you. She sits down and somebody sets her off. Let's say Dad got arrested last night. This kid is going to be a quick trigger. I know this. I might ask her to help me a little bit today. Ask her maybe to run some errands for me. I mean, in that case, I am trying to eliminate a potentially really ugly problem that could involve more than one kid. And think it out. Apparently I didn't think this out because there's a big space. But think it out. Classroom organization is a huge factor in classroom control. Again, I can't stress enough that if you're organized and planned and ready to go, you will present that persona to them, and they'll be less likely to chew you up. I make them sound like they're monsters, but I don't mean it like that. I thought this was funny just because. I circulate around the classroom all day to make sure the class runs smoothly. I need a pair of comfortable walking shoes, and she's telling her principal he needs to buy them for her. And yeah, somehow I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I can always tell the older teachers by the younger teachers, not older like age, but longer time in the classroom, by not necessarily how they dress, but what their shoes are. Because, I don't know how the people with the 4-inch heels do it. First of all, I couldn't do it on a good day, but in classroom, I would be, because I trip all the time anyway, I would become the circus act. So, yeah, that's how you can tell usually senior seasoned teachers. Right now, with your elbow partner, your table, whoever you're comfortable with, identify your students that need frequent attention. And keep in mind, not just the discipline problems, the 504 accommodations, the IEPs, the kids that you just know they aren't on a 504 but probably should be because they can't pay attention for 2 seconds. Those kids. Or the freshmen that can't keep their hands off their partners, friends. Sit and talk with your peers about those kids, and then identify where you think they would fit best in the CD chart that you now have, or or you now have.
On Mondays.
It might take about 2 minutes.
I was like, what are you? Can I just say all of my kids? How do you have yours set up? Like, are they? Do you have it set up the same way? How's your group? In the middle. It's four. Are they next to each other, or is there space? Oh, the two groups. Okay. And just 5. Do you teach whole class levels and everything? No? Okay, see that's today. I tried plans. Sometimes, like, but Damon has my first. He doesn't even You have 9? 8? I think you're still 8. That's right, dude. That's 30 seconds. Well, this year too. I can't but it's probably okay, wrap it up.
Moving on. I wanted you to think about that because it's going to come into play later with your homework. And it's, I can't stress enough how important that is. Proximity is what we're talking about today. 2 seats away. So like if I come over here, technically you kind of are more than 2 seats away, but I can make eye contact, and in their mind you're reachable. Interior loop. There should be a route that you can follow without having to say excuse me, but butt or belly in your face and knocking over backpacks or being that teacher that fell on the skateboard. You should have enough room to be able to make that, and they know. If they know they're safe over there, they're going to act up. And easy access to all students. Some of you don't have the choice, you're gonna have crowded classrooms. But in your head, you can kind of design the best way for you to pass through and get that in your head and internalize it so that when you walk it, you can at least make them feel like you guys are kind of far away from me. Those kids would be the ones that would mess up. Okay, not you two, but that area. And so I want to make sure that I somehow incorporated that. Okay, for your homework, you were supposed to reorganize your desks, your classroom, where you were putting your desk, take a picture before and after, and then discuss it in a dialogue about why you did what you did. Did it help? Did it not? I read them all this afternoon, and most of them helped, from what you guys have said, but there were a few that didn't. The one that said it didn't, that I remember the best, I liked your organization the first time anyway. And I felt like the second one kind of chopped it up. But that's why we have you do it, trial and error. And then you'll know. And let's be clear too. Every year, every class, it might be different. What works? You know, some years you can have kids do well in rows. Some years they have to be in groups or they don't function. I want you to look at your pictures if you have them. If you don't have them, think about it. Are you 2 seats away? Are you able to be 2 seats away from the kids while you do your loop? Okay, so like if I'm doing this, you know, right now I've already identified a problem in this situation, which is over there, and back there. Now I can approach you guys though and face you, but like back there is a little bit more of a difficult, so I'd have to think about your design right now, how you have it set up. Is it 2 seats away? Do you have a pathway for your interior loop? Is your desk away so you're not tempted to sit like I constantly do? And biggest thing is interior loop. Do you have that? Okay. Do I need to have them do it right now or just, yeah? Okay. So if you have your pictures, look at them, maybe talk with your elbow partner, see if she can identify or he can identify the interior loop.
But before you do that, go to your pictures and show them.
Oh, I stole someone's. I won't tell you whose it is. This is the before, and this is the after. If you look, can you see an interior loop? If you do, also look at that, see if you can identify the interior loop, and then I also want you to identify any potential problems. And then do that with your picture as well. And yes, you can talk during this. It doesn't have the chairs, which makes it look a lot less crowded.
Well, it seems like it would be crowded, like there's one that.
Right here.
Is this the after?
This is the after. You're right.
Because then they also like shove them around.
And they don't push them in.
So
I just did the join the desks, but like,
Steve, I have a question. If we do not want to leave the units to join the
oh my gosh, I
Well, the two thing is it's always just
so Adeline was and she arranged all of her dolls to watch.
Can I tell you what she did? Can I get to you? So I had to watch Howard with her mom while we're waiting for the bus. And she stands up. I was like, you get it, girl. She has no issue at all.
You should see where you apples and bananas every day. Every day. Every day.
Oh, it just warms my heart. So this one.
So I'm probably using the desks around my legs.
She can't identify what she needs in the bathroom. She can't. She runs into a wall and will say, ow. So her agent has to come into my room like right after lunch, but I eat at lunch because she like has really bad like she's really constipated, and so her parents basically comes to her and visitors on weekends, and then if she's having a bad day with her dad, it's because she's had a lot of time right now. So we kind of identify that it's like kind of thing pretty much, but it's not really consistent, but it's like a general time. She like will use her hands and like run out the door, and she won't say like I need we're working on 2 different phrases here. She won't say bathroom, like it's hit or not.
Like today, this afternoon, she said, buy Miss Caffeine, and I was like, what?
Yeah, it's like so this one day, I'm by myself. My kids are working at their workstations or whatever, and she just like, I see like, I don't know if this is day, because one day I looked up and I just saw, I always have to like at the door. I don't know if it was that.
I saw what I read over.
And so I don't know if it was that one or another one, but anyway, she runs down my ramp and she's going, and so I'm like, come on guys. Thankfully I was like out here right across from her, and she runs out, she's like, I got it. So I run after, she's like halfway in between like the classroom and like the bathroom, and the kids are coming out, and like she's waddling around with her pants down and like underwear's off, and I like try to like
There's lunch lines of
kids are outside, and like there's teachers around, nobody does. And so like I finally get over to her, and I'm like trying to pull up her pants, like even just like carry her over.
down here. Like, yeah, I saw was like full on button
And like, yeah, it's like she pulled it down fast. And so then we were like, I fall over, we roll a little bit. I'm like, and she's like, ow, ow. And I'm like, let's just go to the bathroom. So finally I just like kind of get her. And she doesn't even lock the door either. So it's like we have to lock the door for her. But it's happened like 3 or 4 times now where she just pulls it down, and so like, you know, they're pretty useless, and like, I was like, what do I do? So solution was let's have an aide come in. So today Missy was in there, and she's like, she don't want to like go to a certain time, so we're reading a story. They're obsessed with Hey, Where's My Monster? And so we do this story online or whatever, and it's like, I'm so tired of the story at this point. But they're like, where's my monster? And they're like, he's got booty, ew, he's slimy, ew. And they want the same response every single time. So she's like sitting there, and she starts running into things, and she started running into like walls and doors and like the Promethean board. Like, it's been consistent for about 2-3 weeks now. And so she starts like hitting herself, and like she's like, ow, 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 but like she doesn't know how to communicate, like, okay, and it doesn't process like, oh, I'm pinching myself, this is gonna hurt me. Yeah, and then she's like, ow.
in the cafeteria. I had just picked her up in the cafeteria. And she, I don't ever see her other than that time, so I guess it's just, but she'll like sit there and her hair kind of like curls a little bit, and she was like, and you see her whole body, like,
She tenses up a lot to like feel it too. Like she'll just like so she can really feel all of her muscles.
just makes my body hurt.
She like saw her hair go up, and she was just like that See, and that's what she's been doing a lot with me too. She's memorized so much that she's been so in the mornings I'd be like morning check-ins, and it's like, are they happy, sad, whatever. So she's like, "Madeline, she's like, she changed it like twice this morning, and I was like, oh, Madeline's grumpy. And she was like, and then she changes it, and I was like, Madeline's excited. And she's like, and then when she finishes like her like workstation, I'm always like, work's finished, and then I'm like, yeah. And she's like, let's go. And she like yells at me now. Like every time she finishes something, she said,
All right, guys, we need attention.
work. And I'm like, work is finished. And she's like, yay.
All right, let me, real quick, her question may pertain to everybody, so let me clarify a couple things. Number one, if you want the units for this class, there's 4 units available. It is an option. It is not a requirement. It is an option. But you must join the Madera Classroom Management Method class. Okay? Let me highlight that real quick. We gave you the join code last time, but let me give it to you again. Okay, so there's the join code. If you haven't joined, you need to join. And we're going to begin reviewing your documents. That's how we found those 2 pictures that you looked at. You do not have to join the class if you are not taking the units. Okay?
And if you haven't done it yet, do not hesitate. Just turn it in.
We're not tripping over legs. Just get it done. All right, number 2. Please make sure you remember what program you're in if you're a beginning teacher. I'm sorry. I was sweating. You are either a and we need preliminary credentialed teacher, meaning you are currently on a PIP, a STIP, or an intern. You are a pre-credentialed teacher. And we call that program Pre-Credentialed Teacher Support, PICS. If you are a PIC, you need to be in the PIC classroom. And really all you have left to turn in for the rest of the year, you have an update to your individual pathway plan and journals that are due at the end of every month. And your first journal was due on Friday. If you have a preliminary credential, but not a clear, and you're in the induction program, you are in the Madera Induction Consortium, formerly known as FITSA. You are a MIC. MICs, you are either year 1 or year 2 or early completion option. If you're in that classroom, you've had several assignments due, including 2 journals. Your second journal was due on Friday. Okay? Any questions about that? You all know what kind of credential you have. You know what program you're in. If you're taking this for units, then you are actually in 2 classes. Madera Classroom Management Method and PICS or MIC.
I have a question about the application. So if we submit an application long when we know we've been approved.
You need to meet with me and have an appointment ASAP. Like right away. That's the last start you have. There's an interview process.
Okay.
Good question. All right. You want to have a code? All right, let's talk real quick about consistency. And it actually is a common criticism or complaint from both the teacher and from administration. Okay? Are you being consistent? And the hard part is if you're not, then what was acceptable behavior yesterday, all of a sudden it isn't today, and you're flying off the handle. And you might be, I wish I was a psychologist and I knew there's different kinds of temperaments about dealing with stress or anger, right? And so you might be the kind that as soon as you're angry, you let it fly, right? Angry, fly, boom, done, all the way gone. Or maybe you're like me and you're a stuffer. You know what a stuffer is?
Stuff it off.
You stuff it down, hope it goes away, stuff it down, stuff it down, stuff it down. And then all of a sudden you get really mad about some trivial thing when in reality it's all that stuff that you stuffed just got come up and it kind of like emotionally vomits all over the place. And you feel better and everyone else feels worse. Okay? All right. Hey, how you deal with that affects your consistency. Okay, you know what I mean? It affects your consistency. So pay attention next time for sure, because we're going to teach you how to have routines for everything. And once they become part of your muscle memory and part of your muscle memory of your students, you'll be consistent without having tried to be consistent. But the second thing is, your words have to mean what they say they mean. Does the word no mean the same in everybody's house? Does it even mean the same today as it does tomorrow in your own home? I think some of the things that we're teaching you through this class, you'll actually be able to take home and try it on your own children and find out that it works. All right. Can you be 90% consistent? 98% consistent. You are either consistent or you're not, right? You are either consistent or you're not, so you need to figure that one out. All right, and one of the things that Fred Jones would tell you is this. In any classroom, at all times, discipline before instruction. Discipline before instruction. You've got to manage that. You can't talk over kids. You can't pretend that they're not talking. You have to be kind of aware. Have you ever been in a classroom where the speaker or the teacher wasn't aware that somebody else was talking or didn't appear that way? That'll be crazy. And what happens? Those people do what? Continue talking. Come on now. All right. What I want to teach you tonight is that your emotions are contagious. Your emotions are contagious. Let's talk with, let's say that something awesome happened over the weekend. You finally got that proposal from that real sweet honey of yours, and you are pumped up. And you're thinking about the date and the invitations and the flowers and the guys are all what? Okay. Are you kind of jazzed, right? I'm kind of feeling a little jazzed. Dodgers are in the playoffs. We start on Friday. I'm looking forward to the game. It's a late game. I get to go home and watch it. Not 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I have to cheat work by watching the game or watch work. All right, I'm pumped up, right? Does that affect the way you teach the class when you're kind of pumped up like that? Yeah. You've ever wondered why kids are like, why are they so buzzed today? I don't get it. Well, really, you need to stand in front of a mirror because the classroom behavior is actually a reflection of your emotions. Ever thought about that? Your class is reflecting back the way you're feeling. All right, today was Monday. I had a busy weekend. I got up this morning. I had to tell you, I had no energy. I had to force myself to say, hey, how you doing? Happy Monday. Right? All right. If I were teaching a class this morning, my class would have been subdued and kind of grumpy. I knew I was grumpy. Thank goodness that I was by myself for a few hours before I could get my coffee down and away we go. All right. What happens if you have had an argument or your child got into trouble for something? Let's go with that. Your child at home got into trouble, you got the phone call, and you're stressing about it. I mean, is it like right there on your mind, right? You can't put it away. It's just right there. Are you nervous? You don't know what the outcome's going to be. It could be from the doctor called about your child, and there's some kind of illness, and he doesn't tell you what it is. He just says, we need more tests, right? Moms, anyone in the house? Well, your child needs more tests. We can't tell you what it is yet. Anyone going to be upset with that? Right? No, right? Are you going to bring that to the classroom? Yes. We talked about your administrator walking in, and your sphincter tightens up. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done TV. But it does. All the muscles in your back kind of, right? They're all, and you're nervous. I will tell you a true story. I was actually 5 years into my career at Madera High School. It was new at Madera High School, but I was 5 years, plus I had been a youth pastor before that. I knew how to do what I was doing, and my vice principal, whom I liked, and he was friendly, a nice guy, walked in, and all of a sudden, my brain just absolutely froze. Froze! Call me in later, hey, Steve, we just want to let you know that we expect bell to bell, you had like a little 10-minute lag there where nothing was going on, and I'm like, I know, I just lost it. I had a brain fart. I don't know. It'll happen. Okay? And if you get nervous, what happens to your students? What's the easiest emotion to catch, to see on somebody? What do you think it is? I couldn't hear you.
Negativity. Any
Negativity,
sort of negative feeling.
anger,
Yeah.
upset. All right. Do we communicate upset in a number of ways? If you're upset and there's a student that's figuring out that his behavior is upsetting you, what are they going to do? They're going to continue it. All right. Emotions are contagious. If I'm angry, and how about that? Can I communicate? My wife tells me that my relaxed face looks like I'm ticked. Oh, gee, thank you, Rihanna, but okay. But she's trying to enlighten me that when I'm just sitting there, I have a look like I'm not pleased. I'm like, really, I'm just lost in my own world. Okay. Can you inadvertently convey something that you didn't mean to? Okay, we're going to talk about that in a moment. You can, and your kids can read you better than adults can. They really can. They pick up on your emotions, and then it spreads. And so we need to figure that out. All right, last one. If something funny happens in your classroom, but you're at that point where you know that there can't be a disruption, what do?
Just laugh. I laugh.
When you laugh, what happens to the rest of the class? Right? And I will tell you, the older the kids get, the harder it is to get them back in, right? So I remember in college, Fresno City College, sitting in an auditorium with 300 people taking a test, and some student on the other side of the class ripped one. Right? He went, wow, did you hear that? And you're kind of like in church, you're not supposed to laugh, you take an exam. All right, if you laugh, your kids are going to laugh. So we need to help you tonight, coach you up on how to have no emotional reaction. If it's funny, if it's angry, if it's whatever, we need to figure out a way for you to have a no emotion reaction. And it's really kind of like the idea of looking at Queen Victoria, and she's looking at you thinking, I am not amused. I'm not happy, I'm not mad, I'm not into it. All right? So we need to help you do that. So what I want you to do is sit up in your chairs, put both feet down on the floor, put both hands, palms down on your legs.
I have to. Sometimes you have to.
All right. Now, a lot of people in the room, so you know this. I'll tell you when it's talk time, but right now it isn't. All right. So I want you right now with both of you on the floor, your back straight, hands, palms on your legs. I want you to flex all the muscles in your back and your neck. Try to make the veins pop out. There you go. Make your face turn red. All right, now relax. All right. Now, we're going to practice relaxing because that's the key. Here's the way we're going to relax. You're going to, number one, take a deep breath. Let it out. You're going to check your jaw because if you clench your jaw, you're actually showing emotion. So here's an example. So I'll show you. So this is my clenched jaw look. And this is my relaxed look. The way that you get your jaw to drop is to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And you have to check your jaw because a clenched mouth conveys being upset. Okay? All right. Are you ready? So, feet on the floor, hands, palms down on your legs, back against the chair. No talking. Here we go. So, scrunch up again. And relax. Take a relaxing breath. Check your jaw. Relax. All right. Wow. And we haven't even started yet.
Sorry.
Now I want you to face somebody.
Oh, Lord.
You need one partner. So I want you to turn your chairs so your feet are pointing at each other. You need a partner. Point your chairs, feet are
It's weird because I'm never gonna like. It's so relaxed. It's cool and cold. No. So like I was gonna go down naked.
She's gonna hit me.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we go. Now we're gonna practice looking at each other. And one of the tricks is to find a focal point that is close to their eyes, but not exactly on their eyes. Because as they say, the eyes are the ones that soar. And you're already giggling. Wait till I get to the good stuff. Here's the trick. No emotion, so you can't laugh. All right. So, scrunch up. Relax. Take a relaxing breath. Check your jaw. Breathe in. Breathe out. And stop. Oh, wait till I get to this part, girls. Alright. Try it one more time. Here we go. Gotta relax. No emotion. Scrunch up. Relax. Take a deep breath. Check your jaw. Find your focal point. Breathe in. Breathe out. All right. 3, 2, 1. Okay, now I need you to pick an A. So the person with the longest hair will be an A. The person with the shortest hair will be a B. That would be a C. All right, now, this time, you're going to try to break up the relaxing look, but you can't say anything. Can't say anything. You can make all kind of crazy faces, and all kind of that, but you cannot say a word. All right? Now we're going to make the B's be the Queen Victoria, and the A's the disruptor. A's are the disruptors, and the B's are Queen Victoria. Okay, so 5 to in the direction. Here we go. Stay quiet. You have to stay quiet. Here we go. All right, B's. Are you ready? Relax. Take a breath. Check your jaw. Find your focal point. Breathe in. Breathe out. A's, you're trying to make them laugh or smile or whatever.
When right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
All right. And time. Let's try that again. Let's try that again. A's, you're going to disrupt with no words. Three people. B's, you're going to be Queen Victoria with no emotion. And if you... Not yet. All right. Okay. So, remember, if you laugh, you lose. Okay? So, all right, A's, you're disrupting. B's, Queen Victoria, back, hands on your lap. Are you ready? Relax. Take a relaxing breath. Check your jaw. Find your focal point. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And time. All right, now we switch. Switch. All right, here we go. Switching places. Now, here we go. It's important. We can get through this faster if you keep the side conversations out, and we can get through this faster because I know you want to get out of here on time. Okay. And I know this seems really silly, but there's a method to the madness. Okay, and in a moment you're going to be getting up, so you're going to have to use this face that we're talking about. All right. So here we go. Are you ready? As soon as I start, you can start making faces to disrupt them. Ready? Go. Relax. Take a relaxing breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Find your focal point. And time. Did I ever try it? Say group of three. Group of three. Is that the only group? Y'all have partners now?
Oh, she went to the bathroom real
Oh,
quick.
she went to the bathroom?
Yeah, she went to the bathroom.
I know some had to leave early today, so. All right. Let's try that again. If you laugh, you lose. If you laugh, you lose. Ready? Begin. Take a relaxing breath. Check your jaw. Find your focal point. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Time. Okay, guys. Now we're going to add the next step. Okay. So, tell me your name. Bernard. Yes. All right. So,
Or Tony.
Bernard has been over there messing around. I want to show you what I want you to do in just a moment. Okay. Remember though that your facial expression has to convey no emotion, neither upset nor happy. Okay. It's a neutral face. You want to have, I guess, a poker face, if you will, and go from there. All right, so let's imagine that I'm helping a group of students over here, and they're in a group, and I've buttoned up a little bit so I can keep my eye on everything, and then I hear a disturbance from Bernard. Okay, so here's the procedure. We're going to practice this one. And we're going to pretend that this is Larry sitting down, and first thing we say is, "Excuse me, Larry," and before I get up, I'm going to take my relaxing breath. Check my jaw, slowly rise, and then I'm going to take a count of 6 to fully turn to Bernard. And I have to figure out what I'm going to do with my hands, so I'm going to put them behind my back.
That's what she was doing. I thought it was funny.
I made both of them laugh at once. It was great.
Oh, I forgot this one.
Oh, there you go.
Even as an adult, Bernard's going, oh. All right? And it is a technique. So let me show, that was the way I want you to do it. Now let's imagine that Bernard's messing around again, and I'm helping with Larry, and I see something going on, and I go like this. What have I just communicated?
You're angry?
So which way does not communicate anger? If I turn rapidly or slowly?
Slowly.
She made the comment it was scary.
Okay, you see the difference? You see the difference? There is a huge difference. So we have to, really the turn should take about 6 seconds. By the way, what can we be doing while this is going on in our mind? We can begin to plan our response. Because, remember we talked about this last time. The fight-flight reflex kicks in, and we think logically in our new or neocortex, and we instantly downshift to what? It says our reptilian brain, but we also know that to be our what? Our brainstem. We become logical, illogical. Remember I told you, have you ever been in an interview and 2 hours later you went, oh, I should have said. Or worse, you were in an argument with somebody, you want to call them, and another thing. And you couldn't think of it at the time because you were in a fight-flight mode and you went from neocortex or new cortex to your brainstem. Now, if you're operating on your brainstem and there's 38 kids in the class, who's controlling whom? Right? Well, that's why we have to make sure that we don't convey that emotion. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand up. Now I'm going to take the turn of being the disruptor. Actually, Jenny and I will even look at us. We're messing around. Okay. I want you to turn almost around so that you're not quite backside, but where you can still see me out of the corner of your eye, but by and large you're not facing me, okay? But you should still be able to see me. And I want you to pretend that you're helping a group of students and your hand is on the desk and you're helping Larry. And I want you to do everything this time as I tell you. So don't do anything until I give you the cue. You ready? All right, so you notice there's a disturbance over here. So you check the disturbance. You turn back to Larry. You say, "Excuse me, Larry." Excuse me, Larry. You take a relaxing breath. You check your jaw. And you slowly stand up. And you turn to me. Both feet, toes pointed at me. Very good. All right, let's try that again. All right, on my cues. All right. You notice there's a disturbance. You check the disturbance. You look back down. You say, "Excuse me, Larry." Excuse me, Larry. Take a relaxing breath. Wait, whoa, you haven't risen up yet. We want this to go slow. There's a reason for that. Your hand's still on the desk. You take a relaxing breath. Check your jaw. Slowly stand up. Breathe in, breathe out, and slowly turn towards me. All right, very good. Now, let's try it with time without the cues. Are you ready? So, you're helping Larry. It's always poor Larry. Is there any Larrys in the house?
There's a lot of them apparently.
Helping Larry. All right, and you hear a disturbance, and go. Very good.
That's intimidating.
All right, have a seat. Have a seat.
They're really bad kids.
Okay. Now, it's hands really do communicate. All right, and that's my stepmom is Italian. Guess what she does? Talks with her hands, right? Okay. So, my dad had a wonderful way of communicating that he was irritated. If I'm at a store, if I'm at home, if I'm about to get a lecture, whatever, to this day, my dad had a really great way of saying, "I am irritated, and you better knock it off." He put his hand in his pocket, and he always had coins in his pocket, and he would do this. He doesn't even know he's doing it. All right, so what do we do with our hands? Okay, can we cross our arms?
No.
Should.
Does it convey neutrality?
No.
It kind of says, whoa. Mr. Pisk, if you ever met him, this
Yeah.
ginormous guy,
Yes.
was my first principal at our high school, and he'd come in and observe in a classroom and never say a word. In fact, he'd tell you, "Don't talk to me if I'm in your classroom." All right, that kind of shows intimidation, doesn't it? Okay. All right. Now, what if I'm standing and guys, you can put your hands in your pockets. That's okay. But ladies, do you always have pockets?
No.
Do you have pockets?
No.
Not today, right? You have pockets today, but if you come in a dress tomorrow and we teach you put your hands in your pockets and then you that conveys a whole other thing. I don't know, maybe I go in the bathroom. I don't know.
Yeah, this means this, and I don't know if this looks.
All right, so we're going to talk about that. So where should our hands go? They can go down their sides. put them, cross them, or you can cross them behind you. That's really the three positions. Because this conveys something else, doesn't it? I'm a little no. Because this becomes this real easy. Actually, I'm one. Once my shoulders are no longer straight and I'm slouched over, I have just communicated what? I'm irritated. Now, I could add a little something to that too, right? Okay? And now that kid, it's a subconscious thing. They know you're irritated. What do? Keep going. Did you remember taking college classes and you had that one professor where you knew if you asked a strange question, he'd launch on that for the next hour? And you're like, oh, cool, I don't have to worry about nothing. Right? Kids know that too, and if they can get you distracted, they will. Because guess what? They're motivated to goof off. I know that it's hard for you to understand because most of you are overachievers in school. Got your Cornell notes and it was crisp. I know you got it down. Not me. You give me 5 seconds, I'm off to the races. I'm going to figure out what else I can get away with. That was who I was. You know, some graduated magna cum laude from college, cum laude. I graduated praise the laude. Some of my friends graduated thank the laude. Okay? All right. So, if we put our hand on our hip, that conveys something too, doesn't it? What about this? I'm uncomfortable. Good. So, if a teacher is uncomfortable trying to get control of the class, if they're like kindergarten cop and afraid of their class, what are the kids going to be doing?
They're going to take advantage of it.
And y'all listen carefully to this. You need to maybe even stand in front of a mirror and look at yourself when doing this, because we have teachers that don't even realize they are communicating, I am scared to death of being in front of you, and don't even know it. They think they're doing all the right things, but they're communicating, I'm scared to death, and the kids are taking advantage, and they think, gosh, these kids are crazy. Some walk into a classroom, and they just, by their mere presence, the class is quiet. How do they do that? How do they do that? They have it, right? And the truth is, that person probably never thinks about, I got it. They just walk in and everything's great. But they are communicating with their body language, I am large and in charge, and they don't have to be a large person, right? Others walk in and say, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I don't know how to relate to people. I'm really smart with chemistry, but with people, I'm not so much. And what happens with the class? It's out of control. And they're thinking it's all the kids' fault. I've discovered something. In working with people, I've discovered, I think, the hardest thing for a human being to do. I think I've discovered it. I should write a book. The hardest thing for a human being to do is to be genuinely reflective and think, what is it that I'm doing that is allowing this to occur? What is it that I'm doing that caused that person to be upset? Because our tendency as people is to blame somebody else. In fact, they were just doing a study on mentoring and being a coach for adults. And oftentimes the mentoring sounds like advice, and the beginning teacher says, yeah, I do that. Or, you know what, that doesn't work for me. When I may be coming to my coaches and saying, no longer give them suggestions, tell them what to do. You need to. Because here it is, maybe I do that, maybe I don't. And well, every one of us say, well, I'm doing that, I'm good. Every one of us. I do too. And I'm fighting it in myself, okay? Being reflective. So I want you to stand in front of a mirror and look at your body language and say, what am I saying without saying a word? All right. You practiced being calm. You practiced standing and turning. Now we're going to add one more. All right? What happens if Bernard is still messing around and I've given him the look and it's not doing anything? How long should I wait? As soon as I've made eye contact with him, a couple of seconds. if in 2 or 3 seconds he doesn't figure it out, then we have to go to the next step. All right? And this is about exploiting proximity. Jenny, I'm going to walk right through there. All right. So you tell me what emotion I am conveying with my first move in to Bernard. So Bernard's messing around, and I'm over here, and I've done my turn, and Bernard's not like, picking it up. All right? So now watch. What have I just conveyed? Uh-huh. What is a kid going to do if he's being signaled out? Doesn't matter what grade level. Kindergarten all the way through for high school, college too, for that matter.
You've challenged them.
If you're challenging them.
So he's going to get big.
I'm not going to lose face in front of everybody. So how do we move? All right. So if I'm in a direct lecture or direct instruction kind of situation, I've got my pointer and I continue to talk, but now I'm moving. Right? Okay? Or if we're in independent work, right, and you're talking quietly and doing your thing, I might say something over here. Right? I'm walking. Okay? Over here. Over here. What have I done? Could you hear me over there? No. Right? I could walk around and pick 5 people that were doing good and 1 person that was doing bad, and you wouldn't know which one is which. Okay? If we have a good relationship, which Jenny was talking about, he's going to go, oh man, I busted. All right. He might smile. He might make a thing. Now, one of the things we're going to teach you later on, though, is if we talk too much to the student about their behavior, then what's going to happen? They're going to answer back.
Well, and keep in mind too, when you go walk over there, if he knows he's been rotten, he may say something like whatever. I mean, he's gonna have the last word. You can't let that get to you. As long as he doesn't make a scene and engage the rest of his classmates, just ignore it. There's certain things you ignore, and there's certain things you address. And he's got to save face a little bit, because you already yanked his chain.
We're going to talk, we're going to have a whole time on just back talk. Okay? Tonight's not it, but let me give you a little sample. So if the old way, the old me, right, I'm teaching my class and Bernard's messing around, and I turn to Bernard, I need you to knock it off, and I keep doing it. Bernard, I've asked you once, so I'm going to ask you twice, please knock it off, right? Bernard, now what happens? What's happening in my fight-flight reflex every time I have to address Bernard? Anger. Bernard, if I have to come over here, you're not going to like it. Right? If I have to ask you one more time, I'm calling security. What is this strategy called? Say it together. Y'all have done it. Y'all have done it. Does it work? Sometimes, but not always. All right. So what do I need to do? I need to move in. Okay? So as I'm talking, I'm walking. You saw me do it with it, but now I'm direct instructing, and now I'm just going to stand here. Does Bernard know why I'm here? If I open my mouth and engage him, he's going to engage me back. And then because I'm already ticked, I'm going to engage. Check it out. It's not the kid's back talk that gets him kicked out. It's the teacher's back talk that gets him kicked out of class. Later on, we're going to hopefully develop some thick skin, and you might even have a brother, F you, man, I don't even want you around here. And I'm not going to reply. I'm not even going to address it right now. We'll teach you that. Are you kidding me? No way. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay? Does that mean I'm going to let it go? No. But what is the kids trying to do? Some kids are trying to do what? Get out of class. Because they go to the teacher's office, especially middle school, right? The rest of the period, they're sitting with the administrative assistant. Bell rings, boom, they're into the next class. Nobody talking, boom. And then the next day, you're feeling like, dang, they don't back me up. Nothing ever happens when I send them to the office. So we want to keep them in your classroom. The one thing Bernard wants to do more than anything is get out of here. He knows, man, Monday Night Football's on. I need to go see. Right? Is Washington winning or not? Come on, man. Right? Okay. So, we're going to move in. 45-degree angle.
2 to 3 feet away.
Okay. Now Bernard's still not getting it. He might even be saying some things. What? I didn't do nothing. If he taught this class, I wouldn't have to ask for help. Your hair is horrible. I swear to you, I had a freshman student look up at me one day and say, Mr. Thornton, can I borrow some hairspray? God, I use it on my underarms. Okay, so now that's not working. So now what's next? Palms down. So we're going to put a palm on the desk. Still not working. So now what I'm going to do? Both palms. Still not working. Going to go to elbows. Be careful though where your hiney's pointing. Still not working? I might give him a verbal cue. I mean a visual cue. Does he know why I'm telling him? Everybody in the class knows what I'm telling him. Then he's going to get back to work. But I'm going to slowly reverse the process. I was down all the way to elbows. I'm going to go back to palms. I'm going to stand up, but I'm not going to walk away. Why? I want to make sure he knows that I'm being pretty serious. Can I camp out here, though, for the whole period? What are they doing over there?
Same exact thing.
And Benny's going to town on his, right?
Come on, Benny.
So we can't camp out here, but we do need to deal with it. All right, now, there's more stages after that, but let's do one at a time. I want you to pick a captain in your table groups. A guinea pig. Send your guinea pigs to this table. Oh, by the way, before I forget, there's a place for your name on these. Muy importante, you write your name on it because they look like everyone else is in the house, and if your name's not on it, somebody's going to take it. Put your name on it where it says, obvious place, name. All right. So here are my guinea pigs. They're up here helping Larry. So put your hand on the table. All right. So y'all are working independently without sounding, and don't talk, but you can pretend to be working. And one of you is messing around at your table group. One of you at your table group is messing around, but again, it's not verbal. Okay?
No way, you?
All right. You gotta listen. You gotta listen. Can't talk yet, please. Okay. So now I'm using nagging as a strategy. Here we go. All right, I'm gonna do that. Okay. So you're helping Larry. You see a disturbance at your table group. You identify the disturbance. You look back down. Take a relaxing breath. Say, excuse me, Larry. You slowly stand up and face the problem. You can't smile.
I'm sorry.
Try it again.
I'm sorry, you guys.
Can't smile.
Princess Britney's dog.
I will tell you this, guys. It actually is harder. It's actually harder to do here than it is in the classroom. It really is.
For sure.
All right, so if you can master it here, you got it made when you get back to the classroom. All right, let's try it again. So remember, you're making the disturbance, but without talking. All right, identify the problem. Go back down. Take a relaxing breath. Say, excuse me, Larry.
Excuse me, Larry.
Check your jaw. Slowly stand up. Slowly turn and identify the problem. The problem is not stopping, so you're going to slowly walk to the problem. Remember, we're not going to use any words to correct the behavior. First, you're going to try standing next to the problem. Stand next to the problem. One palm down. Two palms down. Elbows. Visual cue. Problem stops. Stay down. Stay down. Go back to palms. Say, thank you, Larry, for getting back to work. All right. Sit down in your groups real quick. Okay. In your groups, just in your groups, listen carefully. I want you to think of 3 things they did right and 1 thing you wish they had done differently to correct the problem. 3 things they did right and 1 thing you wish they did to correct the problem. In your table groups. Go.
Okay, but so what is, so I what is all the attention that I just brought to you?
3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay. If you were the person that just got up, I want you to raise your right hand. If you just got up, raise your right hand, and I want you to lower it at an angle and point to the next person. They're going to go to the table.
Who's whoever you just did.
Because you're the second easiest person to get out of here right now.
Okay, Steve. So what if you just brought to a kid and asked them to get more? And it's going to be so popular, I don't care that they're off that. And now you just brought all this attention to them. And they're going to
So this
works with the typical off-task type student.
It works 75% of the time. Okay, so right now we're trying to manage the we're going to continue to drill down in our techniques to identify how to deal with the but in this case, we have what's called a refocus table. That's one way. Although I don't know how old yours is, second grade, right? Third, fourth. That might be a go to the focus table, and there's some things I have to do to figure that out. There's some other things too that are coming, but that would be one of them. Okay, I'm sorry. In fact, in preschool, my wife says, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're not ready to be in."
I think that's probably why you start with farther away.
I will tell you when you're ready. And you don't let them come back.
Probably not the best to do with
Because
like
the socialization is what you want to know. That's your leverage.
like
Grades are not a motivating factor. Even though the principal's not.
You don't want to be right there with
Get
her.
our class. But not being able to sit with my friends. Alright, sorry guys, here we go. Alright, so once again, somebody at your table group is messing around.
There's going to be the
Okay? Turn to identify the problem. I gotta have it quiet, guys. Gotta have it quiet. Turn to identify the
It'd be
problem.
funny if it was
Back down. Take a relaxing breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Say, excuse me, Larry. Check your jaw. Slowly turn. I am not amused. Count to 10 to see if it stops. It's not stopping. Move in. It's not stopping. One palm down. You see how deliberate this is, y'all? Has to go slow. Has to go slow. It's not stopping. 2 palms. It's not stopping. Elbows. Visual cue. Visual cue. The problem is stopped. Back to palms. The problem is stopped. Standing up. Thank you, Sally, for getting back to work. Stay there, you're still working out. Make sure that the work is authentic. We have more techniques coming later about where their feet should be and some of those other things, but tonight we're getting the basics down. And then walk away.
Keep in mind too that the kids, when you're standing here, they know why you're here, right? But you're making them nervous, just like you got really uncomfortable. They know, right? And so the more you stand and compose and you're just not engaging, they're thinking, what are they doing? Are they going to yell at me? I mean, why don't they just shut up and move, you know? And so you're just standing there. You're driving them crazy. That's what you want to do. Because they will, 9 times out of 10, self-correct. It's not worth the subtle embarrassment. Because you're not calling them out, but you're not letting them get away with it either. You're just...
Feedback. 3 things you did right, 1 thing you wish they would have done different.
Yep.
You were good. I liked Larry better than Sally though.
I know, I've seen her. Even that, you guys care. That's fine because...
Point to the person on the right. That person needs to go to the table.
That's Sally.
I have a kid.
There we go.
Like legitimately
All right.
the other day to get my
Everybody,
because I have to do something.
you're helping your table group with calm down on the table.
Can you ignore me on purpose? And I was like,
There's a non-audible disturbance, at your table. Check the problem. Go back down. Take a relaxing breath. Say, excuse me, Larry. Check your jaw. Slowly turn towards the problem. It's a non-auditory problem. Non-auditory problem. It's not stopping. Move in. Palm down. 2 palms. Elbows. Make sure your jaw's relaxed and you're not conveying upsetness. Visual cue. The problem stops. You're still down. 2 palms. Standing up. Thank you, Sally, for getting back to work. Still camping out.
I think you should name him Sally.
Now walk away.
And like, I'm a class clown, but that makes me nervous.
All right, have a seat for a moment. We'll do one more. Here we go. Listen up, though, real quick. Listen up. Here's a couple of things that you're going to have a tendency to do that you're going to have to fight. One is moving away too quickly. Okay? 5 seconds longer just to camp out to make sure that you're getting authentic work is important. The second thing is we teachers love to talk. Okay? And the longer that we're engaging that student, the more that things are happening outside of our group or area that are off-task behavior. Okay? What were the zones again? Green, yellow, and red. What does green mean?
Closest to you.
Green means go, brother. I'm doing anything I want to do. They're the farthest away. Yellow means what? Right? I'm going to check the teacher. Check. Right? You've seen those kids, right? And what is red? Oh, I know. Eric felt that. Oh my gosh, he's standing right here. And it felt awkward for him as I was in his face, right? He's like, oh, I'm in trouble. And immediately he straightened up. It works. About 75% of the time, it's going to work. Okay? One more. Put your finger to the right. This is our fourth one, right? Those people need to come to the table. Remember, no anger.
Oh, yeah.
All right. You're helping Larry? Button hook so you can see your group. There's a non-auditory problem at your table. Check the problem. Back down. Take a relaxing breath. Excuse me, Larry. Relax your jaw and stand up. Breathe in. Breathe out. Give them a look. It's not stopping. Move in. Don't go down to palms yet. You just moved in. It's not stopping. Palms down. One palm. Two palms. Still not stopping. Elbows. Visual cue. Problem stops. Back to palms. Standing up. Thank you, Sally. Camp out. Move away.
He's a good Sally.
All right.
Be up and down all day, right? I know, seriously.
All of our elbows are really dirty. All right, we only have a few seconds, a few minutes. One of the things we talked about, teacher power position. You guys, he's talked about the body and, walking in, standing tall, making eye contact. I mean, that right there is commanding presence. But where do you put your desk? Out of the way. Should be in the back. Should be somewhere where you are not the focal point. Because if you're sitting at your desk, they want to know what you're looking at, what you're playing with. You're a distraction. Have it in the back and don't camp there. It's not a place for you to park. Okay, the only time we should really park there is when we have no students in the class. Even when you're taking roll, whatever, you should still be up where you're commanding presence. And you should be the focus. We talked about having to clear or not incredibly distracting wall behind you because they should be focused on you. But keep in mind, think about where your teacher's desk is, think about where your podium is. Your podium obviously has to be in the front if you're a high school teacher like that. But your desk needs to be out of the way. And put yourself, as long as you're up and engaged, they're less likely to screw around because you're able to approach them and do that wonderful activity you just did for Sally and Larry. Okay, go ahead.
All right, homework. All right, so in the Google Classroom is this assignment. There's 4 questions that we want you to answer thoroughly, so think about it. The last one, question 4, is think about 5 times you used the techniques that we taught you tonight and reflect, did it work? Did you get better at it? How did your kids react? We want to know all of that. So right here on Google Docs, we want you to do your homework. Any questions about that? Is it June 23rd?
Yeah, because that's not what we're bringing in, so yeah.
That's a fun.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So last time you said the homework was due like the before the day of the class, but it was due Friday.
Right.
Well,
Can I have it Friday?
Messed up.
and the reason why, don't worry so much about that, but we wanted you to have it, we wanted you to do it early, so you had time to reflect, and then we could steal those pictures for our slide presentation.
You don't have to worry. This one's due
Yeah.
the 22nd, and our next session's the 23rd.
Okay.
Sunday night. And then, procrastinators, there you go.